Hi, everyone. It's Deborah Hamilton. And today on Why Do Pets Matter, we are going to talk to Robert Parkins, who's a veterinarian who thought about how can I help clients pay their vet bills when they might be not able to pay their vet bills. So he created My Balto. It is a fascinating discussion about how he thought of My Balto, how his brother, who's a techie, helped him build the infrastructure, and how it's working so beautifully nationally and internationally to help those who may not be able to pay for the care of their pets get support to pay for their pets and keep families and pets together. So now let's go and see what Robert and I talked about.
Hi, I'm Deborah Hamilton. Welcome to my podcast, Why Do Pets Matter? 10 years ago, with my iPhone and a script, I recorded the first episode of the Ultimate Pet Resolution Summit, which chatted with experts about conflicts over animals. Our conversations were intimate, honest, and illustrated how disagreements over animals occur and how those disagreements can reshape people's lives and relationships. In November 2019, I started Why Do Pets Matter, a new podcast that continued these informative discussions. I'm so excited to have you here with me, continuing my exploration into a more meaningful conversation about why pets matter to all of us. My guests and I will share ideas, stories, and experiences straight from the heart, unscripted and holistic. From the bravest moments to the most brokenhearted, we will explore how to resolve disagreements over animals differently. One thing I know for sure is I want to have more meaningful conversations that will help all of us unlock that deeply felt human-animal bond that drives the emotions of conflict.
Hi, everyone. Deborah Hamilton, Hamilton Law and Mediation, of course, this wonderful Why Do Pets Matter podcast, and the MAP community where you make a plan for the care of your pets. I'm so glad you're here, but I'm even more glad that Robert Parkins is here from the My Balto. He has started a movement, really, under My Balto. So I'm so glad he's here. He's going to talk about it. He's a DVM. So I'm so thrilled that he's in that sphere and assisting people help to finance the care of their pets, or at least have a deeper discussion. So, Robert, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Deborah, for having me. I'm actually just honored to be here and very excited to chat with you because we've touched base, periodically in the past, and it's just nice to have some more FaceTime with you, or I guess virtual FaceTime nowadays. It's a little bit different than it was 10 years ago.
I know. Let's hope someday we'll be at the same conference together. We actually can have FaceTime as opposed to Zoom FaceTime. So, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
So now we always ask just one question. So, why do pets matter to you, Robert?
Honestly, pets matter to me just because I have pets too. I'm a pet owner too. Yes, I'm a veterinarian. That's like my career, my passion. But I've been a pet owner since I was yay high, just like many of the listeners. I'm hoping that are listening to this right now. And it's just I think I get a unique perspective from why they matter to me because I've had both the as a owner side of things and both as the veterinary side of things. As an owner, I think they're just one of the best things to help you grow. I think I'm sure we can both mutually agree. They can be challenging at times. They make us learn responsibility. They're loving and our best friends. And even some of our athletic partners, like my own dog Loki, who's a 14-year-old monster of a husky. He's my best friend, but I think they just teach us so much on that ground level that make us just better people. And I think, and my mom even said when she's trying to get me to find someone to date one day in my life, she's like, people they trust you when you have an animal. They naturally they just know you're a better person because you like animals and you have animals. And I think there's some inherent truth to that, not necessarily for dating purposes, but just in general. I think there's some truth to if you have this compassion for animals, you're typically more compassionate towards other people. And I think they teach us that on a daily basis. So that's one of the great things I think that I love about what makes pets special to us.
I know it's so important because in the pet world, they love us unconditionally. And I've started thinking when I'm talking to clients who are in conflict, I'm starting to share with them the thought that let's see if we can be the people our pets think we are.
That's a really good line. I actually really like that because I think it probably hits the nail on the head because they think we're such wonderful things and their excitement. I think one of my favorite examples is there's a photograph of an old man and a dog sitting on a bench together. and above each of them is a thought bubble about what's going on in their day. And in the gentleman's thought bubble, it's this picture of him going skiing on the slopes. He's with his wife on a beach, all these things that he wants to do. And then you shift to the dog's thought bubble, and it's just him and the owner sitting on the bench together. And it's just, I think that just encapsulates how much we mean to them on a day to day basis and how special they are to have them in our lives.
Yeah, I know they're always in the present. They're always glad to see us no matter what we may or may not have done. We've left them to go to work during the day. They seem to forget that. I mean, some of them have a little
Yes.
bit of a mood, especially cats sometimes. And I say that with all
Yes.
love to cat owners. I watched my son's cat Jane for 6 months, and I can tell you
Um,
she would let you know when she was upset with you. My dogs, Irish setters, not so much. And in your life, probably your 14-year-old doesn't necessarily give you the hairy eyeball as much as a cat would, but I'm sure there are times when we get home to them and they're like, "Where have you been? What have you done?"
mhm. Yep, I left actually for Australia for 6 weeks when he was, like, 6, and when I came back, I was so excited to see him, like, I couldn't wait to see him. I got back, he just missed me completely. He's just like, "I am mad at you. You left me for, like, literally 2 months." He's like, "I'm not talking to you right now." Finally,
Yeah.
eventually, towards the end of the day, he got back to me, but he's fine.
Yeah. I need to let you know how important it was for you to know how much I missed you. And
Mhm,
I know I've been away from my dog for about 4 days now, and I know when I get home it'll take a minute. It's really interesting. A minute for him to recognize it's me, which is
mhm,
incredible but true. And then he will jump out of his skin. And I've only been gone 4 days, and he's been with my husband and my son, so it's not like, okay. But they really do bond, and it isn't that they don't love everyone else in their house. When I do divorces or relationship breakups with pets, I always say to the other party, I get it, you want to take the pet, but unfortunately, your pet doesn't hate your ex. I said, they really do like your ex. If you weren't there, they actually, so whoever you left him with for those 6 weeks, he was okay with, and he treated them like probably like you. He might have
exactly.
been pining for you, but he treated them like you. So you're like, well, how does he like them so much? And I said, because they know who loves and cares for them. And
Mhm,
although they matter to us, we matter to them so very much because it's the trust that they put in us to navigate the journey they're going to take. And that's why I
mm.
think when I read about My Balto, I was like, wow, this is the beginning of having a discussion of how do we navigate being able to take care of our pets no matter what. So I'd love to hear your journey to My Balto and then what My Balto is about because it is such an important change in the way we look at things regarding the financial um, and I don't want to say burdens but responsibilities of pet ownership.
No, thank you, and, I've been very blessed with my Balto. I've got a lot to thank my brother for in the first place because he's kind of the tech entrepreneur guru behind the scenes. I'm just the guy that came to him with a problem, and fortunately, I just make him fix my problems. So that's kind of the benefit of it. But I've worked in ER for the last 12 plus years now, so that's been a big part of it. But during that time, I've obviously seen plenty of owners who couldn't afford pet care, and during that time, unfortunately, this resulted in me putting a lot of pets to sleep for things that unfortunately we could fix. And there just wasn't a lot of resources for them at the time. And there's a lot of reasons for that. There's not just one. But one of the reasons is that there are some great organizations out there that offer charitable donations to help support those patients, but they're just not easy to access. It's jumping through six different hoops for the veterinarian. It's jumping through another six different hoops for the pet owner. It makes it very challenging to say, hey, can we help this pet? And can we help them more importantly now? And that was, I think, the biggest struggle I had because obviously in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. when I'm working, I don't have time to wait sometimes a week for this organization to get back to me or even till the next morning. So that kind of led to the creation of My Balto and the My Balto Foundation, where we now help every hospital have their own angel fund. And this really allows them to then take in donations for their hospital and use them for their community. You don't have to worry about them going across the country for another purpose. It stays with them so that way you're actually donating to help your neighbor. You're helping your friend. Or you know what? One day you're maybe helping yourself because those funds are coming back around to you when you need it. And I think that's really what's special about it because now we're starting to see the relationships that veterinarians are building with their communities. We even had one client last week. The hospital saved their pet on an ER basis, which was really cool. And the owner's like, "Hey, normally I could afford this, but I couldn't right now." and
Right.
he's actually offering to work with his company next year to auction a car, and that car's proceeds will be donations for the hospital in the following year. And that is just easily one of my favorite stories because it just shows that cycle of giving that I want to get back to is just as a culture. I don't know. Have you ever seen the movie Pay It Forward?
Oh, absolutely. I love that movie because
I
it's
think it's
always
funny.
about recognizing to be grateful and thankful.
Mhm.
And when you're grateful and thankful, make sure that you, if you see something, you do something too.
Absolutely. I think that's the best part about it because it just shows that ability to say, like, what am I grateful for? How can I help one other person? It just has to be one other person and how that can spread to one other person from there. So I think it's just that cycle, like someone helped me, now I'm gonna help someone else. And I really love that attitude. It's nice to see it work in action. I think that's always been my dream of this and to see it come to a reality has been really cool. So that's been really the big dream. Give every hospital their own angel fund. But obviously part of that process is making sure you have money to support those angel funds. And that's something I think that we really specialize in that I'm really proud of is how we help find innovative ways to build those angel funds. So that way the hospital staff doesn't have to do a lot of work, but we can all work together to get little donations here and there that help support the pets in their community. So that's something that I think that's really quite special about what we're doing.
Yeah, because you never know who would love to be able to pick up. I mean, I don't know if you've been a recipient of this or done this, but I believe you probably have, and you've probably been a recipient. But every once in a while, I'll drive through Starbucks and somebody will say, the person ahead of you bought your coffee. And I went, wow, look
Yeah.
at or then, of course, I feel absolutely in the need to drive through again and buy the other person's coffee behind me because of the fact that, wow, that was really thoughtful and it makes you feel good. So when you're asking for money in a perspective way and in let's, I loved when you said if you donate, one day you might be somebody who's benefiting from the donation. And we don't always think of that, we won't be
Mhm.
able to do this. But I can tell you that there have been a lot of discussions in the vet world and in the vet service community about how even people who are well off are thinking twice about going to a veterinarian because even for wellness checks now, it's even significantly expensive. So tell me how My Balto works. Is it just emergency or is it for anything?
It's for anything. And that's what's really cool about it, 'cause sometimes even euthanizing a pet is a blessing and something that an owner can't afford to do. Like they have a terminal illness. They just physically can't afford to put their pet to sleep. They don't want to in the first place, but they just don't have any choices. So one, it allows the veterinary hospital to say, "Hey, we can help you. We don't have to wait for some third party. We have the funds. We're going to help kind of supplement this, so that way you can get your pet's ashes back." And that's been a really big thing for a lot of owners because they love their pet. They fell
Yeah.
into a bad situation. Unfortunately, they can't afford to support them. They have to do the best choice for them, but they want to get their ashes back because that's been a big part of their life for 12, 14 years. So that's been one cool part about it. But it's also everything from surgeries to dental procedures to even vaccines. We had one for 10 puppies. They all got vaccines because that way they're not getting a $4,000 parvovirus infection
Right.
3 weeks later. That kind of stuff is huge. And that's why I love how general practices are using this too, because they're using it to focus on preventative care because being able to prevent illness is more important than the reactive part of medicine. So that's what's really been really nice about it.
I mean, pre-paving a positive outcome. I mean, why wouldn't we all want to
Mhm.
do that? It sort of goes along with our pets who think, well, you're going to take really good care of me, and this just isn't a good month for me. If I can understand and know that this exists and I can be a part of it, that's huge. And I'm wondering how many practices actually participate in My Balto. And I know you said at the beginning, thanks to your brother, you were able to do the technology things. I have a sister who's a dentist, so she wasn't really helpful in that, but there you go. Um, uh, but how do you get the word out there? Because I know that really everyone that's one of the driving reasons for me because I want Robert to get this information out so people can go, ooh, My Balto. What can I do to bring that to my vet practice? Or what can I do to bring that to my vet? Because I know I've
Mhm.
had, and I don't know how if you've had this issue. I've had a lot of pushback from my veterinarian when I bring them alternative payment plan programs like vet billing, or I think it's Vitus or one of the other ones that is also a payment plan. Uh,
Mhm.
they probably don't balk at My Balto, but maybe they do because, we've become so desensitized, I think, to this is how we will offer you the ability to pay for your pet. And yet it brings on such debt, which, of course, for me, breaks my heart because you're asking people to save their pet, which of course they're thinking with their heart and not their head. And then all of a sudden, like their whole entire life changes because they can't make their mortgage payment or they can't do it is so important to make sure that we give them the opportunity not to make a choice that's going to make their life spiral out of control.
I think honestly you make a really good point there, and I think the problem honestly on that side of it is the veterinary industry. Historically, I love my colleagues; they're all great people and they care about what they
I
do.
love them too. We are going to cheer for them. They've
Exactly.
got a lot of things they're going on. So we're not criticizing, but we
No, no.
want to spread at least be curious, right? Go ahead. I apologize. I just
Be,
wanted to
no,
share
no,
that with
no,
you.
no. You hit the nail on the head though. Be curious. It's a Ted Lasso quote too. If you like Ted Lasso, I'm a big movie, TV show buff, but like, be curious. I think historically we don't like changing our hospital softwares. We don't like trying something new as an industry because we just don't know if it's going to work. And I think we have to get out of that mindset because it's holding us back as an industry, both in terms of medicine, in terms of financial options, and just in terms of personal growth. And I think that's really the hard part because like I'll talk to a clinic and we're free to adopt. It literally costs the hospital nothing if they want to at least take in donations and help support their clients. And we even get the question of, well, we don't trust this. It seems too good to be true. Like that's
We
the
get
hard
it.
part. It's like, yeah, like right, you give them a good thing, and but there's a lot of other great programs out there that do cost a
What's
little
the
bit, but they have
catch,
such
Robert? What's the catch,
right.
right?
What's always the catch? It's like sometimes there's not a catch. Sometimes you have people equally on both sides that are trying to do good things, and I think that's what's trying to get that part across. I think as an industry, veterinarians need to change, but if I think they always do respond well to pet owners who are like, hey, we want to help out. How can we help support pets at our practice? So I think always if a pet owner goes to a practice and says, hey, heard about this cool thing called the My Balto Foundation. It sounds like you guys can adopt it for free and help support clinics, and I'll be willing to donate to it myself. That I think opens the door for conversation. Say, hey, we can give $20 a month or even $5 a month to this angel fund, and then more people can do that. That goes a really long way to helping a lot of patients.
And the other thing that you said was that it builds community. If someone in that moment can't afford to do the medical um, needs of their pet and they benefit from My Balto, when they can, they probably pay it back tenfold.
They've done a really good job of it. And even we had another client earlier this year where normally any other year they'd be able to pay all their pets vet bills. Not a problem, like they're good owners. But unfortunately, their house burned down 2 weeks beforehand, and they had two pets that were being hospitalized for smoke inhalation. Again, any other year, this wouldn't have been a problem. They would have handled it, but they just lost their entire house. Like they had nothing. And something like that, the hospital was able to step in, provide the My Balto funds to help that client out. They didn't have to sacrifice their own resources, which was awesome. They didn't have to put the owner in debt or make them make a hard decision to euthanize their pet. And the pet got the best care possible. And that's really the trifecta of what we're shooting for. How does everybody win? The hospital, the pet owner, and the pet itself, obviously. So I think that's the cool things we're starting to see now with that, as you mentioned, kind of like how they can give it back. And I know that family's like, hey, once we're in a better position, we're going to do our best to help support those clients and our community members in the future.
Yeah, because I think that's the thing that's sort of been changing in the 21st century. Veterinarians used to be the ones like, and trust. And now
Mm.
it seems as if that is not as prolific in the relationship between clients and their veterinarians as it was, say, even in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with the accessibility of knowledge. You now have ChatGPT where I can ask my dog, "Hey, my dog is vomiting and having diarrhea. What does it have?" And it's gonna spit out a whole bunch of answers for you. But I think the hard part is we should 100% use that technology. That technology is awesome. We should use it as a resource. We should not use it as the defining truth because there's things that your veterinarian who has expertise in the field will know about. And yes, you should use that information to collaborate with them. Doesn't mean you shouldn't look it up. Use it, For God's sakes, use it. It makes your veterinarian better. It makes you better as a pet owner. But I think we're starting to question experts, which is challenging because it's not allowing us to do our job. They're not going to get care because they think they know about themselves. I've had 3 owners this year already who use ChatGPT improperly and provide the wrong care for their pet that we had to fix afterwards. It is not God's word. It needs help still. It's still growing just as a platform is, but we need to be able to work with our veterinarians and use this information to supplement what we know or what we don't understand and ask questions, not to define treatment ourselves, I think.
When I talk to veterinarians, I often say appreciate and acknowledge that this is what they did while they were waiting to see you, right?
Mm,
They were on ChatGPT, they were on Google
yep,
trying to figure out what was wrong with their dog, and they bring in a ream of paper this thick on what they think's wrong with their dog. And a
yep,
number of veterinarians, when I teach classes on communication, say, "It drives me nuts. I'm the veterinarian." And I said, "I get it. I'm the lawyer. I know everything. I think I do anyway, and probably know the laws in New York better than, anybody I'm gonna represent in New York as opposed to, someone who's not a lawyer." However, I've come to terms with the fact that they're doing the best they can to hold on because here's
mm.
this animal that can't talk, that they love more than anything, and you know as well as I do, you can't see a vet today. I mean, I couldn't see a vet for my English Cocker Spaniel who, wasn't pooping. And I'm like, I really need to see the vet. So I went to the emergency clinic. But if they want to wait to see their vet, then sometimes this is what they do. Go on ChatGPT. I love that you pointed out, don't take matters into your own hands and follow what ChatGPT says before you check with your vet. Because if they say pour peroxide down their throat, if you want to make them throw up, that might be good. But if it's for something else, it might not be good. So you should really call and ask before you do anything. However, when you bring it in, I always tell the veterinarians, thank them so much. And there's probably something in there that's really important that I'm going to read, but let me see what's going on and we'll see if any of this is appropriate. And then the client feels as if you're a partner.
Exactly. And we diagnosed the pet with diabetes recently, and the owner, after I got out of the room, looked it up online. They had actually they use it really well. They actually said, "Can you explain this to me in like layman's terms? Like I don't. I'm like a fifth grader." And they did a really great job of breaking it down. I'm like, "Hey, that's great." Like they understood it better afterwards. So it's a way for us to grow together. It's a way for me to explain things better, for them to understand things better. And when you understand things better, you can treat your pet better. But I think that's really the value of where this information comes from. But it should be used in collaboration with, not as the sole source of truth.
Oh, absolutely. And it's often my findings that due to interactions with other clients, you come in sometimes with a bias. If somebody
Yep.
approaches you with things, or, I once introduced myself as a lawyer and a breeder, and said, "How many of you think I'm your worst nightmare in a vet conference?" And they all raised their hands. And I said, "You don't even know me." I said, "Really, I'm not that bad." However, we have these biases we bring into the room. And I always say the one thing you need to be aware of is what biases do you have? And then when
Mm.
you feel it sneaking up in the back of your, from the front of your head to your amygdala, you have to say, "Oh, wait, I need to take a breath. I need to really stop that difficult interaction because it was intended or by the client, but rather because of each of your experiences with the last veterinarian, the last client."
And your phone broke up a little bit there, so I'm gonna ask you to repeat one thing. I'm so sorry.
So that's okay. So I'm sorry, we're having a terrible thunderstorm here. So I'm doing the best I can. I'm on my independent internet. But when you're speaking to someone, you're bringing bias in the room. Sometimes it creates conflict because you're bringing in your last interaction with a client who presents like this client, or a veterinarian who presents like this veterinarian. And so you come in sort of loaded for bear. And how do you recognize that when it's sneaking down to your amygdala, which is always driving your reactivity, and say, "Oh, I have to recognize that I got to give this person." So
All
we
right.
were talking about what happens if you come in with bias in the room, either as the client or as the veterinarian. I don't know if you've ever had that situation where you've met a client that seems a little loaded for bear before you walk in the room, or if you've met a client that sort of triggers you because of a client you treated before.
You know, there's probably some similar situations, and I'll be honest. I think one situation even that myself and my technicians are guilty of that we'll have an owner roll up in a really nice car. They'll pull up in that like literally like a Lamborghini type car because I live in San Diego and there's still some wealth down there. And we're a specialty hospital, so we tend to see some of those higher end clients. But this individual rolls up a very nice car. And as we get in the room to go over the plan, the dog wasn't terribly sick. It was just, like, hey, your dog's got some vomiting. We want to do some tests, make sure everything's okay. And we present the treatment plan to them. And it was, five, $600, nothing too crazy. Not that it's not expensive, but it's, for a person who's driving a car like that, you think it'd be like, oh yeah, sure, go ahead. Your gas money is what cost you that to get here. And they fought us tooth and nail on it, saying how expensive we were and they couldn't afford to do it. And so that I think, and unfortunately, I think that put the whole situation to kind of a negative
Yep.
light because we assume something based on an outside characteristic. And it really taught me that day to say, what, cars don't matter. Your clothing doesn't matter. I've seen people that wear literally rags walk in and pay for a bill like it's no big deal. And then the complete opposite where someone's got a Gucci bag and they say, hey, we're not doing this because of cost. And so I think it taught me something very quickly early on that you can't judge someone by at least their appearances, which is unfortunately where we do a lot of our biases off the onset.
There's a great commercial out there that you might not have seen yet, but I saw it the other day and I went, wow, this is a really impactful commercial. I'm going to have to find it and put it up and say this is reality. So it was a commercial where a young woman was in the supermarket and she used food stamps.
Mhm.
And then she got into a Bentley
Okay.
and drove the Bentley home. And the woman who was behind her online and went out and saw her getting into the Bentley said, oh my God, they're abusing the system, this and that. And it turned out that she was the nanny for a very wealthy family, and it was their Bentley, not her Bentley. She was going home in a
Oh,
Volkswagen, but to drive the kid around, she drove the family car, right?
sure.
So,
Yeah.
so you were presuming that here's a Bentley using food stamps. Are you kidding? Playing the system and everything, but rather she was stopping at the supermarket to buy something to bring home to her family with the kid, and 'cause she had the kid in the supermarket with her. It wasn't like she left him out in the car. And I said,
Mhm.
wow, that's really impactful. And like you said, you just surmise something. And
Yeah.
often we surmise the other way. And I always tell veterinarians when I'm talking to them, please don't think that your client can or can't afford anything. Present
Mhm.
everything in sort of a way that gives them the opportunity to make the choice they need to make. And when they make the choice, check in with them, but always understand that they're making that choice with all their consideration. I'd love to ask you a question because this is always weighing on me. A lot of veterinary practices, uh, if you can't afford to fix your dog's leg, say that was broken while it was hit by a car, right? Well, if you
Mhm.
relinquish it to us, we can fix it and then we'll find it a great home. And so people sign their dogs over. And I go,
Sure.
okay, I get that. You feel better because you were able to fix the dog's leg. You pretty much punish the owner because they couldn't, pay for the dog, right? The owner feels better because they didn't have to put the dog to sleep. Um, they feel guilty, but there's nothing they can do. But nobody thinks about what happens to the dog when it wakes up and their owner isn't there.
Yeah, I think you asked a really good question that unfortunately I think bothers a lot of veterinarians. And I think every veterinarian's gonna have a different answer to that. For me, I need to be able to sleep at night. That's really the biggest thing. I will do something for free before I put a pet to sleep. For something that I can like fix. If it's in my power to fix it,
Right.
I will fix it and just say, hey, I'm going to sleep better at night because that's the case. I actually did rescue a pet one time that an owner couldn't afford, and I was going to adopt it myself, but unfortunately, the pet had passed away in hospital before we could get it feeling better, which was a bummer. But it's a tricky situation because at the same
Yes.
time, that is their family pet, and they had three kids, and they couldn't afford it. So it's like, are you putting the dog back in a situation where they're going to be able to afford it?
Right.
Also, if the dog's feeling better, why not just give it back to the family so they can enjoy their dog? It's so tough,
There's
honestly, and
no right
I
answer. That's why
there
that's why I
isn't.
proposed it, because there's no right answer. It's whether or not, everybody understands and everybody's also considering the pet, because now we know, that pets are attached to their owners as much as their owners are attached to them. So what could we do? I love that you've now created that extra piece with My Balto, because veterinarians now don't have to make that offer. They can actually participate in My Balto and be able to help the families pay for their pet, so that nobody has to make that decision, either to euthanize or to relinquish, so that it can get the proper care. And I love what you said, because it's absolutely true. If you can't afford this, will you be able to afford that? Like, say you diagnose it with diabetes, right?
Hmm.
That's an expensive diagnosis for a cat
Yes,
sitter.
it is.
It's a very
Yes.
expensive diagnosis. And um, I'm on the board of New York Save, and they created a fund where if a veterinarian sees that a pet has this recurring disease like diabetes, that
Mhm.
owners can get assistance in paying for the medical
Oh,
needs of
nice.
that pet. So I love that, like My Balto,
Mm,
because we're being proactive about keeping pets and people together, recognizing that everybody's doing the best they can. And sometimes, it gets overwhelming. I mean, especially now, things
mm,
are really overwhelming for a lot of people, and they need their pets more than ever. But, their job might be, um, downsized or something, so that they lose their job, and how do they do it? So your brainchild, along with your brother's expertise, created this ability for people to keep their pets and to make sure their pets receive the care they need. I'd love to know some of the ways that people who are listening to this can walk into their vet, tell them about My Balto, and then maybe create some fundraising events to fund each individual veterinarian's My Balto fund. I'm sure you've heard
Oh, well,
wonderful ways that everybody, I mean, I don't know, I could think of six myself, but that's just me.
no, and I think there's some people are so creative out there with their ideas, and I think that's kind of the cool part because the house will come to us and say, "Hey, we want to try this. Can we do it?" And they do it, and it works really well. And we're like, "Hey, remember to share this with the rest of the community." And I think that's really the cool part about it because we get to share. The hospital that did a pet carnival this summer. It was awesome. They raised like 8 grand for their hospital during that time frame. The whole community got involved. They played games. They raised funds, and that was the point. Like, make it engaging. We're fortunate enough where how we structure a lot of our technology is to find innovative ways to build those angel funds or those charity funds for each hospital. So we do things like rounding up a checkout. Literally every hospital or every industry besides the veterinary industry does that right now. So yes, we're going to add that to hospitals so they can round up a checkout and get micro donations to help support pets every day. We do things like quarterly donation challenges. This is probably one of my favorite ones because I love competition. I love fun. And we did something like our March Madness tournament back in it wasn't called exactly that, but for frame of reference, where hospitals compete against each other in a bracket against one another to raise more donations. And if they won, they got bonus donations when they got to the next round. So it's kind of a fun way to like households were wearing basketball jerseys at work. They were shooting hoops in the lobby with their clients, and it brought them together, saying, "Hey, if we can help us raise a couple donations, if we beat this other hospital, we get more to help support more pets." And I think that's what I really love about some of the things that we're doing. We're trying to find just fun ways to make donations just exciting. It doesn't have to always be boring or always. It's always you don't feel good about asking for donations. Your veterinarians in general don't even like asking for the money that they're owed for the service, let alone for additional funds. So I think we're trying to bypass that by finding fun ways to do that with some of the other programs we have going on, and we even have things like Go Fund My Pet, a lot like GoFundMe, but allows owners to reach out to their social network and say, "Hey, can you support my pet for this procedure that they really need help with?" But we're using some AI technology now to help make their summary a little easier for owners to understand so they can do the job faster. And we make it safer because every time someone donates to that person, they know the funds are going right to the hospital because there's no scams involved. The hospital knows they're getting reimbursed. So it's safer for all parties involved. It's just a lot of fun things like that that we're doing that really just it gives hospitals a weapon to fight economic euthanasia. And for me, that's the most important thing in the world. We can avoid. Sometimes we have to put our pets to sleep when they're sick. We got to put them to sleep. But there's a way we can fix it and make them feel better, and we don't have to put them to sleep for the wrong reasons, for financial reasons. That's going to always be my goal, and that's what I'm really excited that we're doing here.
And I love that, it really reaches into the community, both pet owning and non-pet owning, because I might not be able to have a dog now because I work too long or I travel too much. I'd hate to be that person, but there are people out there who love pets but can't have pets. Either they think they're too old and they'll outlive the pet and what will happen to the pet. And
Mhm.
of course, my map community knows I know how to do that. But it gives you the opportunity to reach out to the community in a way that is community building as opposed to how some people refer to veterinarians now. What you love animals, why didn't you get into this if you all you want is money? Because it's the only it's the only voice they hear. They don't hear,
Yeah.
let's all get together for a circus. Let's all get together for a car wash. Let's all get together for my birthday. My birthday fund would be please donate so I can build the My Balto fund at my veterinarian. These
Mhm.
are community building because then if I, and it's something I'm probably going to do this year, if I put out that I want donations to My Balto for my veterinarian, they're going to say, well, what? Some people might say, what the heck is that? And then, oh, maybe I'll do that too. Because so many people are creating that um, connection. Don't buy me a present. Thankfully, I have everything I need. But if you want to buy me a cup of coffee, buy me a coffee card. Now, Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks will be very mad at me. Instead of buying me a coffee card, please donate to my Balto because that way that $10 will go to hopefully doing what you're doing, Robert, which is helping pet owners meet the needs of their pets.
Yeah, I think it's been pretty special, and I think you like it's just I appreciate you really understand that, and you can help share that with other people because they mean everything to us. Obviously, it's because of the work that you do too. I am not envious of your job. I don't know how you do it. It's like trying to be between two owners who both love about their pet equally. I don't know how I'd help. Like I'd be like, I don't even know who to help here. That's how I would feel. Like I feel so guilt. Like it's such a hard job. So like people like you that are going out and they're reaching out to help people when they need it most. It's really quite special. So I think it's you understand it, and I really appreciate you just giving us the time to kind of chat about it.
Well, I appreciate you giving me hugs for what I do because it can sometimes be challenging. But like now, it's all about the pet. What gets
Yes.
lost when you're in conflict, either with your veterinarian or your neighbor with a barking dog or your breeder or your owner, or, if your relationship is breaking up, it's about being right over getting it right. And what I try to do is just pull you back in and say, you're all fighting about Fluffy. And Fluffy really loves you both. So let's see what we can do together to make sure Fluffy thrives. That might be leaving Fluffy with Robert, and Deborah might only get to see it once or twice a year. However, that gives Deborah something to look forward to. That gives Robert some comfort. And of course, again, when we were talking about the know, like, and trust, when those things happen, being able to trust that that's actually going to happen. Robert will never give me the dog. And, if I give Deborah the dog, she will never give it back to me. And I always say in my mediations or in my conflict conversations, I go, yeah, they will, because we're going to make sure that they understand that what's most important to them, they might lose if they don't
Mhm.
follow the agreement they've made. And we do it in a way that is so thoughtful and respectful because most people don't fight for a dog because they want to punish the other party, although
Yeah.
that's how the other party feels about it. They
Yeah.
do it because they actually love the dog. So I'm so thrilled that we've had this time to spread the word. I'd love to have you on again in a few months so that we can continue to
Thank you.
keep my Balto top of mind.
No,
Anything
thank
new
you.
that's happening, any activity that you hear coming up, please call me. We'll even do a short podcast so that we can let people know that the vet office in San Diego is having one of these basketball things that we can all contribute to. How broad is My Balto? Is it nationwide or is it something that's still in its infancy?
We're nationwide, which is cool. We're just entering Canada now too, and we do have an exciting event coming up in October that can be open for anyone. It's our virtual Mutt Mush, where people can actually join a run walk challenge for their hospital in teams of 5, and they do the virtual Iditarod. So every registration will go towards each hospital's Angel Fund. So it's kind of a cool way for you to support your hospital. help them win some more donations themselves, and just get out there and be active with your pets. So keep an eye out for that, the Much Challenge coming up here in October.
We'll have you back the middle to the end of September so you can mush us into mushing, because I love that. I do that for several different groups. I do it for PAWS. I do it for the National Dog Show Therapy Dog Symposium, because for me, making sure that you get awareness for people who are going to go ask their vets now. And everyone, remember, go ask your vet. Do you know about My Balto? If you don't, just go to the internet, run a page off, and say, here. And I'm sure that Robert or his brother will answer your question, or whomever's there running the show, because Robert's doing emergency veterinary medicine. So he might not be able to pick up the phone right away, but I'm sure there's enough information on the internet. Everyone who's listening today, please, please, please go look for My Balto. How are they going to get in touch with you, Robert, or how are they going to support My Balto? Where can they find the next step from hearing about it to bring it to their vet to implementing it?
If you go to www.mybaltofoundation.org, at the very top of the page, it says if you're a veterinarian or if you're a pet owner. And you can click right at the top and say, hey, if you want to help support your own pet, you can use our GoFund My Pet feature. If you want to help your veterinarian get engaged with our foundation, so they have more tools to help your friends and neighbors, you can just go to the veterinarian tool.
Well, Robert, I am so grateful we had this time. We're going to book an appointment after we hang up to make sure we're back here like the
Oh,
15th of September so we can set everybody up with their mushing clothes and their mushing shoes, even in San Diego.
wow.
You're going to get hot. But anyway,
I'm sure.
we're going to do that. And I love this. Everyone, thank you so much for being here on Why Do Pets Matter? And kiss your dogs, your cats, your snakes, your birds, your horses for me. And until next time, why do pets matter? Because they make our life better. Thanks so much. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, Deborah.